Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf, Pesachim Lamed Aleph. We are 8 lines from the top of the Amud. Says the Gemara, Abaye bar Abin of Rav Chananya bar Avin, brothers, Abaye and Chananya, both sons of Avin, Tanu Trumois be Rabba. They learned Mesechas Trumas in the Beis Midrash of Rabba. Pagabu Rava bar Masna. So Rava bar Masna met them. Amar lahu, and he told them, Mai amritu bitrumas be Mar. What chiddush did you learn when you were learning Trumas in the Beis Midrash of Rabba? Such a great man like Rabba, says Rashi. Surely you must have learned some great chiddush. Tell me something that you learned with respect to Trumas in the Beis Midrash of Rabba. Amruleis, they told him, Mike umay kashalach. What difficulty do you have in Mesechas Trumas that perhaps we can address in the name of Rav? Amrlu, he said, actually, I have a kasha. Tanan, the Mishnah says in Mesechas Trumas, shesilei trumai shenitmu. If we have these vegetable plants, Rashi says a cabbage, etc. So they were truma and they became tummy. Vishaslan, and then he replanted them. Toharu milatame. They no longer have the ability to be mitame because Rashi says they're not longer considered to be oichel. They're bottled because they're replanted in the ground. So they can't be mitame anything. Va'asura milechel. However, they may not be eaten. They're asur ba'achila. Now the obvious kasha is it one or the other? If it's no longer tummy, since it was replanted, something in ground, something growing, doesn't have tumah, so why then is it asur to be eaten? If they're considered to be tor with regards to transmitting tumah, because as Rashi says, they're batal meteres eichel, amay asur melechel, so why can't you eat them? So this was his kasha. This was Rava bar Masna's kasha, posed to Abaye bar Abin and Rav Chananya bar Avin. Let's take a look at Rashi inside here. So Rashi will be 8 lines from the top of the Amud. Tanu Trumais. So this is the 2 brothers who learned Mesechas Trumais, says Rashi, in the Beis Midrash of Rabba. And Rav bar Masna met them and he says, Mayam Ritu, Chidush v'taima b'Trumais, something special, some good pshat in Mesechas Trumais, Shatem Shoinim b'Beis Adam Godel Karabba, that you have learned in this great man Rabba's Beis Midrash. So they asked him, well, you have anything difficult? So he says, yeah, actually I do. The Mishnah says, Shesile Truma, Kigan Shesile Kruv, Akresh, the cabbage, these types of vegetables, Tarum Latami. They can no longer be Matami Achirim. Why? Shechiburan Lakarka Batlan Viteris Eichel. Because since they're now attached to the ground, that makes them bottled. They're no longer considered eichel. However, v'asurim elechel. They can't be eaten. Because he figured, the pshat must be, mishum tumah ul'koyanim. A kohen can't eat them because they're still tummy. So he said, mimanavshach. Is it tar or is it tummy? So this was the question. Continues the Gemara. Amrulay. So they responded, actually we have a teretz in the name of our Rebbe, Rabba. Hachi amar Rabba. Mayasurin. What does the Mishnah mean that they cannot be eaten? It doesn't mean that a kohen can't eat because it's tummy. No, it's no longer tummy. Because it's been replanted. Rather, asurin lezorim. A non-kohen can't eat. Because these things are truma. Although they've been replanted, they still retain their truma status. That's midrabanan. Chacham said even something which grows from truma, which was planted, is still considered truma, gidule truma. Rashi brings the reasons because in order to save the property, the assets of the Kohanim, perhaps the Yisrael will go ahead and plant the truma, will avoid giving it to the Kohen, and go plant it so they can have the gidulim. If the Chacham said you plant a truma, it remains truma, and anything that grows from that truma will have a din of truma. Says the Gemara, Umay Kamashmalan. So this was his response. Okay, so Rabbi said the Mishnah means to say that the planted truma remains truma, even the outgrowth of this truma remains truma? Is that what he's trying to say? Is that what the Mishnah is trying to say? Micah Mashman. What is the Mishnah teaching us? Gedula truma. That's something which grew out of truma plant. Truma which was replanted, and there was some growth from it that remains truma. Tanina. We already learned that in a different Mishnah, which actually precedes that Mishnah. It's in the same parak Tes and Trumas, but this Mishnah is Mishnah Daled, whereas the other Mishnah is Mishnah Zayin. So why does the Mishnah Zayin have to teach us this halacha, which was already taught to us back in Mishnah Daled? That something which grows from Truma is still considered Truma. As Rashi points out, even if it's Zar Oikala, even if the seed germinates, it gets spoiled, it gets rotten in the ground, the original Truma seed is no longer in existence. Whatever grows from that, whatever is produced by that seed, still has a din of Truma. Tanina, we learned it in the Mishnah. Gidule, Truma. So why the repetition? So he said, look, perhaps the Mishnah there is trying to teach us an additional chiddush, that even the gidule, the one that grows from the growth, Rashi describes this as follows. If you have, for instance, a scallion, which you replanted, so the original stalks which grow, which get larger, that's called gidulim, the original growth. Then, if this scallion adds more stalks, so those additional stalks are called gidulim, the ones that grew out of the growth. So it's a second generation, a second level growth, which is further removed from the original. Still, it would be truma if we're speaking about something which remains, the original remains. It's called davar she'ein zar oikala, that the zar doesn't disappear. It remains intact. So now anything that will grow out of it, even gidulim, the ones that grew out of its growth, meaning second generation, second level growth, a new stalk, that's all considered truma. So perhaps that's the chiddush, which was taught in that Mishnah. Even the gedulin are still truma. Oh my kamashman. And what does the Mishnah coming to tell us? Then we have something which the original planted item remains intact. So anything which will be reproduced by that thing remains with the initial status, in this case truma. Hanami tanina. This too has been taught to us elsewhere with regards to tevel. Ha-tevel gidulav mutar. If one should plant tevel, so we're speaking that something which was already fully processed and is chayiv in terms of maestros, and he goes and he plants it. What grows out of those seeds is mutar, meaning if it's unprocessed at this point, right, newly harvested crops which are not yet processed, it's not considered tevel, and you can go ahead and eat it. Just not achilas kva, you can eat achilas sarai, informal meal. It's not considered tevel. So something which grows from tevel is mutar, b'davar shezarei kala. That's only if the initial seed is kala, gets spoiled and destroyed in the ground. Aval b'davar she'en zarei kala. But in the case where the initial seed or whatever that you planted remained intact, just added, produced more, in that case, everything that comes out of it is still considered like the initial planted item. Afilu gidul nasun ba'achila. Even the gidul also ba'achila considered like tevel. So similarly by truma, you have a scallion which remains intact, remains in place, doesn't get spoiled or destroyed. Anything which will be produced by that scallion will still have a din of truma. So it's something which we already know. There's no need for that Mishnah. The Mishnah of Shesile Truma Shenitmu Sheshaslan. There's no need for that Mishnah to come tell us anything regarding Gidulin and Gidulin. These are halachas that we already know from elsewhere. So, getting back to Haukasha, what's the pshat in that Mishnah? We have a cabbage which was tamei, he replanted it. It can no longer be metame, but it's asur b'achila. Why is it asur b'achila? You can't say it's asur to the kohen because it's tamei. It's no longer tamei, it's batal. You can't say that the Mishnah is trying to tell us that it still has a din of teruma, and it's asur for a non-kohen, because that we already learned elsewhere. Ishtiku. So now they remain silent. Abaye bar Abin, Chanani bar Abin, they don't need to respond. It's a difficult problem. What's the point of the Mishnah? Amru le. So they turned to him, they said to him, Midi, Shmielach Baha, have you heard any pshat in this Mishnah? Amr lu. So he said, actually, yeah. Hachi Amr Rav Sheshes. This is what Rav Sheshes says. Rav Sheshes explained the Mishnah. Mai asurin. What does the Mishnah mean when it says asurin? So these replanted cabbages are still asur. Asurin like a hanan. Even a kohen can't eat it. Why? Since they became puzzle through hesach hadas, through diversion of attention. Meaning, as Rashi explains initially, when this cabbage became tamei, so the kohen diverted his attention from it. He's no longer going to eat it, so he stops paying attention to it. He no longer safeguards and watches this cabbage. And as Rashi will bring a pasuk, es mishmer is truma yisai. Truma is meant to be safeguarded and watched throughout, to make sure no tumah touches it. So it needs to have that shmira. And if a person diverts his attention, he's masiach das. This truma food becomes puzzle and is no longer edible for the kohen. Says the Gemara, but there are two ways, two perspectives regarding this concept of hesach hadas. One pshat is that it's a positive element called shmira, which is required. The Torah requires it as a precondition for the kashrus of the truma. If there's no shmira, if there's any diversion of attention, there's any hesach hadas, this truma is not possible. So it's a psul on its own. It's an inherent psul. It's lacking this shmira element. That is the reason for the psul. Now there's another pshat in hesach hadas. A more simple approach. We're concerned perhaps it came into contact with tumah because we weren't paying attention, we weren't watching it. So it's a suffix tumah. So Rav Sheshes says, well, these cabbages are now asur because of hesach hadas. So that works well according to the Shita, which holds that the psul of hesach hadas is a psul haguf. It's an inherent psul. The thing is unwatched, it's puzzle. For no other reason other than the fact that it wasn't watched. Sharper. So the Mishnah makes sense. We have a cabbage which wasn't paid attention to. This hesach hadas, it's puzzle. But according to the other approach, what's wrong with hesach hadas? We're concerned perhaps it touched tumah. So it's a suffix tumah. Now, how are you going to explain that Mishnah? Look, this cabbage was puzzle. It was replanted. Rashi explains when something is in the ground, it's batal matar soichel. It's no longer an oichel and it's no longer tamei. So who cares if there was hesach hadas? At worst case scenario, hesach hadas led to this thing touching tumah. So let's say it was tamei. Now it's been replanted. Something in the ground, something growing is no longer tamei. So why can't the kohen now pick it and eat it? Okay, before we proceed, let's just take a look at Rashi. So off to the right, if you drop about 4 lines from where we're holding now in the Gemara, you'll notice the Rashi begins with behesach hadas. So what's wrong with hesach hadas? Says Rashi, this occurred when the cabbage became tamei. Why? Because he was no longer paying attention to it. Kishenitmu b'tchila hisiach daitamen. Shuv melashemran. V'nifsol hesach hadas. Why? Dechsiv gabe truma es mishmeres trumoisei. Oved lo shimur v'loi tasiach daitcha. He meant to do shimur, to watch over that truma, without hesach hadas. Says the Gemara, okay, if hesach hadas is psul haguf havi, malahi b'kachim, it's a mala. Kachim are held in a higher standard. Then they need to be watched, to be safeguarded. It's not only to secure them from truma, from Tumah. The point is to watch them, to give them the extra shmirah. So without the shmirah, shouldn't have solemn bekach. They become pasul of a shame psul hu la'atzma. It's its own type of psul. It's a new category called hesach hadas. Says Rashi, "Afilu yavai Eliyahu v'yimar." Even should Eliyahu Navi arrive and tell us, "Shaloi nitmu k'lois na yom shesech daitimeh." This truma never became pasul, never became tamei, while you weren't paying attention. Ein shemila, we don't listen to him because hesach hadas is an inherent psul. That's the pshat shaper. Now we understand the Mishnah. Mishamachi asurin. So the vegetables, even though they were replanted, are asur. She'en shtilosan me'elaslan lahaser shem psul ma'alein, because their replanting doesn't remove this psul. Why would it? So we can understand the Mishnah. However, el man da'amar, according to the other sheet, kol ma'shakachim nefsal besach hadas. What is the reason for the psul? Eina elo b'shem chashash tumah. There's a concern about tumah. Shema aydesha seach da'aitim ishmirosan. Perhaps as a result of the hesach hadas, noga behen tumah v'nei. Perhaps tumah came into contact with it and he was unaware because he wasn't paying attention. So if that's the pshat, Michael Ameimar, Hani amay mifsli. So why were these vegetables pasul? Mishum chashash tumah? Is it because of the concern of tumah? That can't be. Ha'afilu tumah v'adoish behen te'arasam shtilasam. The fact that he was shoisel them, he replanted them, that was mitayr even the vadei tumah. These cabbages were tamei, but now once they were replanted, they lost their tumah. They lost their oichel status. So if it lost its vadei tumah, certainly it would lose a safek tumah. So why would hesach hadas harm things, make things worse? Okay. Let's proceed in the Gemara. Let's go back to hesach hadas. So, at this point, we had a pshat from Rav Sheshus. These cabbages which were replanted cannot be eaten by the kohen because they're pasul on account of hesach hadas. The Gemara says it only works if hesach hadas is a psul. But if it's a chashash tumah, this pshat doesn't seem to work. Okay, let's carry on with this conversation. This machlokes regarding the exact definition of hesach hadas. Hesach hadas. What is it? Rabbi Yechon Amar, psul tumah havi. It's a psul based on a concern of tumah. Perhaps tumah touched it because he wasn't securing the truma or kashim properly. It's inherent. It's an actual psul. Ashi calls it a shame psul la'atzmai. It's a new psul. Rabbi Yechon Amar psul tumah havi. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it's a psul based on tumah. Shem yavel yovi tarena. So if Eliyahu Navi arrives and says, "Well, this thing is tar," I can tell you for a fact, it did not come into contact with tumah. Shamila, we listen to him. Rabbi Shimon Lakish, no, psul aguf havi. It's an inherent psul, not on account of the chashash tumah. The fact that it was lacking shmir, that in itself is a psul. Shem yovel yovi tarena in shemle. Even if Eliyahu Navi should arrive and tell us it's tar, we don't listen to him. So even though it never touched tumah, it is pas. Eisvei Rabbi Yechon Shimon Lakish. So now the Gemara is going to proceed with some kashas regarding these shittas, Rabbi Yechon Shimon Lakish, and then we're going to go back to our discussion regarding the shesile trumas. So again, at this point, we have Sheshus Pshat. It's on account of hesach hadas. And now the Gemara is going to proceed into this discussion of the exact definition of the psul hesach hadas, which according to Rabbi Yechon is psul tumah, according to Shlokish it's an etzem psul. And Rabbi Yechon begins with a kasha. Eis Rabbi Yechon of Shimon Lakish. I'm going to prove that the hesach hadas is based on a chashash tumah. It's a safek tumah. The Brisa says, Lul Katan, there was this little window in the ground, Haya ben Kevesh l'Mezbech, between the ramp and the Mezbech, right in the corner where they met, Maravish al Kevesh, on the west side of the Kevesh. Sheshama yuzorkim psul chatasoif. So they would toss the disqualified bird chatois, which got some sort of psul, and apparently the psul was not enough to justify its burning. But to ubetzurasan, they would leave it there in that little hole. They would leave it there overnight until the tzura, until the form, until the appearance becomes discolored and spoiled. And then, meaning after it's left overnight, that's called ibur tzura. Afterwards, it's puzzle, because something left overnight is puzzle belina. And they take it out to the place to burn. So this is Rabbi Yehuda asking a kash. He says like this: why would they have to wait overnight so that it becomes puzzle belina, which would justify the streif? Now, Rashi explains, apparently, it's pretty obvious that there was no psul pigel or tuma, or that the malika was done shleika mitzvasa, because in that case, you just burn it straight away. There's no need to leave it overnight. Something which is inherently puzzle goes straight to the Beis HaShreifa. So the kasher is, apparently it can't be pigel or those psul. So what must have happened here? It must be that the problem was hesach hadas. This chatas oif had hesach hadas. Somebody wasn't paying attention, and as a result of that, this chatas becomes nifsal. However, you can't go ahead and burn it. Why not? Says Rabbi Yehuda. So if hesach hadas is only based on the chashash of tumah, so in this case, since we don't know the safek tumah, we don't know that it became tamei. So on the one hand, you can't use it, but you can't burn it either. You have to wait until you know with certainty that there's a proper psul, which is psulin shemhachi by ibratzura. That's why it has to be left overnight. Shema yavai el yavat, because you can't just go ahead and burn it. It's only a safek tumah. Perhaps El Yonavi would come and say it's tar. So you have no right to go ahead and burn it. Therefore, you have to go ahead and leave it overnight. So this way, it acquires a proper psul lina, which allows burning, which requires burning. Eli amras psul haguf. However, if you maintain, Shlokish maintains that hesach hadas is a real psul, it's a psul on its own, unrelated to chashash tumah. The fact that there was hesach hadas, that equals psul. If that's the case, over here by us, lomali ibutzura, why do you have to leave it overnight? Just go ahead and burn it right away. It was pasal b'hesach hadas. As Tosfos points out, even if you say that the psul here was in the dam or in the bailim, something unrelated to the actual bird itself, the actual basar of the bird itself, which in that case you can't burn the basar, as we're going to see in the Gemara soon. But the fact that he tossed it into this lul, into that window there, automatically there was hesach hadas. Nobody's watching it. So the mere fact that it's sitting in that place is tantamount to hesach hadas. Right? So once it was hesach hadas, and you maintain hesach hadas as a psul haguf, just go ahead and burn it. Why have to wait overnight? That's not, haven't we learned in the Mishnah? So this is the rule. Whenever you have a carbon which acquired a psul in the guf, in the basar itself, you saw it from me, just go ahead and burn it right away. But dam of a balam. However, if the psul was in the dam, Rashi says kigoy nishpach dam, or balam. Suppose the owner passed away by a carbon pesach, so it's an external psul. It's not inherent in the basar itself. So now you have to wait. You can't just burn the basar. To uber tzurasim. So you have to go ahead and make sure to leave it overnight, and then you burn it. So in this case, says Rabbi Yehuda, where the bird, the chatas oif, has now acquired a psul, because according to Yurish Lakish, hesach hadas equals psul. So it's a psul which is present in the basar itself, in the chatas oif itself. Just go and burn it. Amar lei, so Rish Lakish responded, no, hesach hadas is a psul. Why do you have to wait overnight? Hi Tana, this Tana of the Brisa here, Tana devei Rabbi Baravu. It's that Tana. The Omar afil pigul ton ibutzur. Even a true psul like pigul, all agree that's a proper psul. You can't just go ahead and burn it. As we're going to see in the as Hashem, the upcoming Prakim, that this Manda Amma holds that even true pigel needs to be left overnight. You can't go ahead and burn it. So that explains matters. Even though there was Hesach Hadas, which is a true psul, but it still necessitates an overnight, so that it becomes pasabalina, which would allow burning. Eisvei, Rabbi Yechon proceeded with another kasha to prove his point that apparently Hesach Hadas is a suffix tuma. It's a tuma-based psul rather than an inherent psul. Eisvei, nitma. So again, we're speaking about the basar of a carbon, let's say a shlomim, became tamei, or shenifsal basar, or became pasul with a different type of psul, or one out of the claim means the curtains in the Mishkan, the Beis Hamikdash was meaning out of the Azora. So one out of the boundaries and became asur b'achila, psul yoytze. So what happens now? We have dam, which is kosher, but the basar is pasul. It's tamei or pasul yoytze. Rabbi Lezer Omer, he is right. He can go ahead and be zeruk the dam. Rabbi Lezer holds that even if you don't have any basar, you still proceed with the akrava. Rabbi Shoim Elay is right. No, you don't do it because unless you have both components, both elements, the dam and the basar, you don't proceed with the akrava. Now, that's the chatchila. But the eved umayder b'shur shemzara kurta. If he proceeded to do the zrika, even Rabbi Shua agrees, the carbon is accepted. It's kosher. Fine. Now let's analyze the brayso here. We had nitma, we had nifsal, we had yoytze. Now nitma we know came tummy. Yoytze went out of the boundary. What does nifsal mean? My nifsal, la besach hadas. Perhaps isn't this hesach hadas that is being referenced here? Why? Says Rashi, it can't be speaking about that there was a pigel, there was machshavas chutzal zmanich, some kind of, because in that case, not only is the basar pasul, but the entire carbon is pasul, even the dam is pasul. Now here we're speaking that the basar became pasul. Brisa says nifsal habasar. So give me another example where the basar is pasul but not the dam. We had tummy, we have yoytze. What else is left? Apparently we're speaking that was hesach hadas. So that's the psul that the Brisa is referring to. Now let's analyze. So that works well if hesach hadas equals tumah. As Rabbi Yehuda maintains, it's based on a tumah concern. That explains why bidi eved, Rabbi Shua's moida, that bidi eved works. Why? Because it sits at the Kohen Gadol would wear. It atones for it. It makes up for it. We know that tzitz is meratzah on tumah. So carbon that became tummy and was hukrav, that tzitz takes care of it. So that's why Rabbi Shua agrees, imzara kurtza, because we're speaking about the psul hesach hadas, which is a tumah-based psul. So even at worst case scenario, it came pasul, the tzitz takes care of it. That explains the brayso. By nitma, the tzitz takes care of it. By nifsal, which in this case is hesach hadas, which is a chashash tumah, the tzitz will take care of it. And as Rashi points out, in the third case as well, the case of yoytze, although tzitz doesn't work for yoytze, it only works for tumah. But in this case, the carbon will be hurtza. Why? Rashi brings a Gemara, Menachos, because the psul yoytze is possible on account of an external factor. It's the chesar mechitzes. There's nothing wrong with the actual basar itself. It didn't become tummy, it didn't become basar. It left the mechitzes. That's considered to be an external element, external factor, and it's not so terrible like an inherent psul. That's why Rashi brings a Gemara that the carbon b'diavad is okay. Fine. So getting back to the definition of the word nifsal habasar, the only thing we have left is hesach hadas. So if hesach hadas is on account of tumah, we understand why b'diavad it works, because it sits to care of it. Eli amas psul aguf havi. This is all Rabbi Yechon speaking. But if you say that hesach hadas equals psul, it's a psul on its own, right? According to Yurish Lakish, Amai hurtza. So why is the carbon accepted? Brisa says, Moiderish Rabbi Shua, if you did the zrika, the carbon works. Why? If the basar is puzzle, Rabbi Yehoda says you can't be zurik. You can't have a carbon without basar. And the basar is not puzzle. There's a hesach hadas, which is an inherent psul. It's a certain type of psul, which even the tzitz wouldn't take care of it. Says the Gemara, my nifsal b'tful yom. You know what the word nifsal means? It became puzzle through touching a tvul yom. Person was tevel, and hadn't yet experienced the nightfall, the erev shemesh, so he's a shein l'tumah. If he touched his puzzle, the puzzle became puzzle. That's what the Bryce is speaking about. So the Bryce discussed nitma or nifsal. Nifsal means he touched the tvul yom. Yachi ainu tummy. So if that's the case, then it's exactly like tummy. Touching a tvul yom is also a type of tummy. It's very gavni tummy. The Bryce mentioned two different types of tummy. Nitma means it touched a tummy on a much higher level, and nifsal means it touched a tvul yom, which is a much lower level of tummy. So the Bryce simply cites two examples of tummy. But we're not speaking about hesach hadas, and there's no kasha on Rish Lakish. Fine. So in conclusion, we had a discussion regarding hesach hadas, which is a psul. The question is, why is it puzzle? According to Rabbi Yehuda, there's a concern perhaps there was tumah here. So if Eliyahu Navi would clarify that for us, we would listen to him. If he says no tumah touched, it's tar. According to Rish Lakish, no, it's unrelated to tumah. Hesach hadas is its own type of psul. It requires shmirah. It's a positive element which is lacking, which is absent when there was hesach hadas. And as a result, the truma, the kachim become puzzle. Fine. Let's get back to our original discussion. Mishnah discussed shesile truma shenitmu v'shaslan taram l'tamei v'asur melechel. So you have these plants, these vegetables which were tamei, and they were replanted. They're no longer metame because they're bottled. They're no longer considered oichel, but they may not be eaten. The question was miman of shach. Are they tar? So why can't they be eaten? If they're tummy, let them be metam. So we had a pshat. Perhaps the Mishnah is coming to tell us that a izor can't eat it because it's kedulei truma. So the Gemara says, well, we know that from Mishnah. Then we proceeded, well, there was hesach hadas here. Well, that works if hesach hadas is a psul, but if it's a chashash tumah, well, it's replanted. There's no tumah. That's what we're holding. Kisalik Ravin. When Ravin went up to Eretz Yisrael, Amr l'shmaite. So he said over the pshat, which pshat? With Shesh's pshat, that the Isser Achila there is based on hesach hadas. So he related this pshat kamei Rabbi Yirmiyah. And Rabbi Yirmiyah wasn't so pleased with this pshat. V'amar, he said like this: Bavloi tipshai, silly people living in Bavel, mishum diyasi ba'ar dechashecha, just because they're sitting in this land of darkness. Bavel was a very low land, so they're sitting in this place of darkness. Amrisan shmaitzim the machashchu. So on account of that, you say these dark pshatim, unsubstantiated explanations. He didn't agree with this pshat. Perhaps he held that hesach hadas only applies to kachim, not to truma, so it can't be the proper approach to the Mishnah by truma. Or perhaps he held like Rabbi Yehuda that hesach hadas is a chashash truma, so once it's replanted, that concern is removed. In any case, he very much objected to this approach. And he said like this: I'll tell you the proper approach. The proper way is like this. Haven't you heard Hada Rabbi Shimon Lakish Mishmei Rabbi Yishia? Rabbi Shimon Lakish quoted, said the name of Rabbi Yishia. As we're going to see in Rashi, there's a concept called a mala, a higher standard, which is applied to things which stand higher. Truma, kachim, we treat them with more respect, we hold them in higher esteem than just ordinary chulin. And they have to conform to higher standards of tahara, of kedusha. As we're going to see some examples in the Gemara, actually 5 examples. So Rabbi Yirmiyah was making his point. It's like this: what was your kasha? They replanted the cabbage, it becomes tar. You're right. If it's just ordinary chulin, it's bottle, it's no longer oichel, it's tar can be eaten. But when it's truma, we apply higher standards to truma. And the Chachamim did not allow this procedure to be employed and to accomplish heter achila. You still can't eat that truma which came tamei. We don't look at it like it's tar. It's a mila. Perhaps let's take a look at just a short Rashi here before we proceed. So Rashi here is the first wide line. Towards the end of that first wide line, lo yishmiya lechu. So this is going to be a name of Oishya. From there, we can figure out the tam of that Mishnah by the replanted vegetables. Why they also to be eaten? It's a mila, it's an astringency. Even though when it comes to chulin, zriya works. Chacham apply a mila, astringency, higher standard when it comes to truma, that by replanting that truma, we don't consider it to be purely tar. Lahalas like tahara gemura leheter achila, to allow its eating. Umiyo says Rashi melatame taru. Even though it's truma, the Chachamim will retire it to the extent that it can't give over tumah. This is specific to achila, but not to be matame. The lahala yavad mal. When it comes to being matame, they didn't apply a mala there. So these replanted vegetables are considered to be tor with respect to their ability to transmit tumah. But when it comes to eating, the Chacham did not allow them to be eaten. We still regard them as being tummy. Okay, back to the Gemara. So he said, you never heard of Shimon Lakish, Mishmei Rav Oishya, who said like this, that at times we find the Chacham applied a mal. For instance, Me'achag shenitmu. If you have water on Sukkot, designated for pouring on the Mizbeach, the Nisuch HaMayim, so they became tummy. Rashi says, for instance, if they prepared water for the Shabbos Chol HaMoed, they drew the water from the Shiloyach, and they left it there, and it got tummy. Now it's quite difficult to go ahead and get more water on Shabbos. So they're looking for a solution. And we know there's something called hashak. Water which becomes tummy can become tar, not by being toivelet. Tvila doesn't help for eichel mashke. Something called hashak. You connect it to an in-ground stream, to a mikveh. By doing so, it's as though you're being mavatalit. It's no longer drinking water. You're connecting it to the source, to the in-ground water. It's like planting a seed. It now becomes bottle and becomes tar. That's called hashak. So when it comes to the me'achag, they'd like to do hashaka, to be metared. Me'achag shenitmu. So does hashaka work? So it depends. Hishika v'achkachik dishan. If he did the hashaka, and then he was mekadesh, the water, and designated for the mizbeach. So first came the hashaka, when it was still chulin, and then he did the hegdish. Tar, hashaka works. Now the water is tar, and can be used for the mizbeach. But higdishan v'achkachik. First, if he did the hegdish and then did the hashaka tmeim, it doesn't work. It's still tameh. Mechti, let's try to understand this. Zriya nino. Doing the hashaka is like planting them. Like being mavatal, the water into the ground. And that's a reason to be matired. So what difference does it make which one came first? Mali yishikan v'achachigdishan. What difference does it make if the hashaka came before the hegdish? Mali yigdishan v'achachishikan, or the hegdish came before? Almo apparently in Zriya hegdish. This concept of Zriya doesn't apply to hegdish. It's a mila. The Chacham applied a chumrah that this procedure cannot be matayr, something which is already hegdish. So if it happened when it was chulin, okay, for chulin it works. Now it's tar, you can be mekadesh it. But once it's kaddish, we don't allow this procedure. Hachinami here as well when it comes to the replanted vegetables, which is truma. In Israel truma, this replanting won't be matayr for truma. So this is the correct pshat in that Mishnah. You take cabbage of truma, which is tameh, and replant it. Okay, it can't be matam anymore, but it can't be eaten. It's a mila that the Chacham applied to truma, and want to adopt higher standards when it comes to things which are higher in standing. Yosef Rav Dimi v'kamal al Shmait. So Rav Dimi was sitting and saying over this halacha of Rav Oishya that when it comes to Mei HaChag for the Mizbeach, Hashaka doesn't work. Amalei Abaye. So Abaye says, I'm actually wondering, to what extent did the Chacham apply this Chumrah? There are two levels of Kedusha. There's Kedushas Damim and Kedushas HaGuf. Kedushas Damim is when something which is merely monetarily Kaddish for its value. Then you have Kedushas HaGuf, something which is actually prepared for the Mizbeach, it's inherently Kaddish. A behema, something sitting in the Kli Sharis, awaiting Hakrova. Now, there are two ways to be Magdish things. Kedushas Peh and Kedushas Kli. So generally, Kedushas Peh, verbal Kedusha, will only create a Kedushas Damim. It's Kaddish for its value. But the Kedushas Kli, meaning once you take that item and you put it into Kli Sharis, now it attains a higher level of Kedusha. Kedushas HaGuf, it's inherently Kaddish. So if I wants to know like this, the Maila that Chacham applied, this Maila that you can't do Hashaka, was it only applied once the item has attained its higher level of Kedusha? Kedusha has a Kli, it's already sitting in the Kli Sharis, waiting for the Mizbeach. Or even by Kedusha's Peh, if it only attained a lower level Kedusha through verbalizing. Amalei Abaye. Hekdisha B'Kli Kamar? Was Rav Oishya referring to something which was Kaddish B'Kli? So this water was ready in the Kli Sharis, and that's why this Maila was applied. But if it's something that's only Kaddish B'Peh, Chacham would not apply this additional stringency. Or perhaps even when something is only Kaddish B'Peh, which has a lower form of Kedusha, the Chacham would still apply a Maila. Omer, so he responded, this is Rav Dimi, Zulei Shemati, I'll tell you the truth. With respect to this halacha, I don't know, I never heard. One way or the other. Kayotze b'Shemati, however, something similar I did hear. With respect to a different Maila, a different Chumrah, a different higher standard the Chum applied to something which is Kaddish. And in that case, even when it was only Kedushas Peh, they applied the Maila. What is that? The Amar Avo Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda's shita, as we know from yesterday, is that a liquid within a fruit is considered to be a separate entity. So if the fruit is tamei, the liquid remains tar. And Ravo quotes Rabbi Yehuda as follows: this apparent leniency to separate the two entities, the fruit and the juice, only applies to something which is not hegdish, but something which is kaddish won't have that leniency. Adam which became tummy. So it depends. If he first crushed them, and then he made them kaddish, because the juice within was never makabel tumah, because the skin of the fruit and the juice itself are considered to be two separate entities, and that's because the grape itself was never kaddish. It was crushed prior to becoming kaddish. But in the reverse, if he first took the grapes and made them hegdish, and then he crushed them, tmei, and that's tummy because the juice within already acquired tumah when it was within the grape, because grapes which are hegdish don't have this din. We don't separate the fruit from the juice. So we have a mala, an added stringency, a higher standard applied to kachah. Okay, so this is the halacha name of Yehuda. Says Rav Dimi, I'll prove to you that even by Kedushas Peh, there is a mila. We have these higher standards. Why? V'hanovim the Kedushas Peh ninu. Grapes are merely Kedushas Peh. They're not in a Kli Sharis. Right? Rashi points out, even if you put them in a Kli Sharis is only Mekadesh, something which is meant to be in a Kli Sharis. Grapes don't belong in Kli Sharis. It's not wine that's about to be poured in the Mizbeach. It's just grapes. So it's only Kedushas Peh. It's Kaddish on account of the verbalizing, the speaking. Right? The Peh, the word that made it Kaddish. Even so, even though it only has a lower level kedusha, kedushas peh, Chacham applied a mila. So perhaps when it comes to that water situation there, Chacham would apply a mila, that hashaka wouldn't work, even though it was not yet kaddish b'kli. Amar Rav Yosef, anavim ka'amras. How could you compare it to grapes? Grapes, we're not speaking about hegdish. We're speaking about truma. Hacha b'adam shel truma askina. So what's the difference? Very pasha. Truma doesn't have two levels of kedusha. When you verbalize, when you say this is truma, it now attains the highest level of kedusha's truma. It arrived at the highest spheres of the kedusha's truma. The kedusha's peh did too. It's kedusha's peh of truma. Kedusha's kli damim is like a kedusha's kli by a carbon. Because unlike hegdish, which has two levels of kedusha, there's a basic elementary kedusha, kedusha's peh, where you verbalize and it's only a kedusha's damim, and then you can bump it up by putting in a kli, which upgrades the kedusha to become kedusha's haguf. It's inherently kaddish, prepared for the mizbech. So over there you can speculate. Perhaps the kedusha's haguf has the milo, but not kedusha's damim. But when it comes to truma, there are no two levels, right? Any kedusha's truma has already arrived at the highest level of kedusha, and that's why the Chacham applied these stringencies. Aval hani de boy kli, but when it comes to hegdish, these grapes, which eventually they need a kli at the end of the day, right? To get kedusha's haguf. So perhaps prior to having arrived at that high level of kedusha, for instance, bepeh, when all it has is kedusha's peh, but a mal, Chachamim perhaps did not add these milas, these astringencies. For instance, when it comes to that water, hashaka would work if it still hadn't arrived at the highest level of kedusha, kedushas kli. Fine. Okay, now let's just analyze one point here. We had the Ravo, the name of Rabbi Yehuda. They have these grapes which became tummy. So if they're non-hegdish grapes, if you crush them prior to making them hegdish, then they're okay, because the point is that the fruit is tummy, but not the juice within. Dorchan, vafilo tuva. So if you crushed them, even if you had a large amount of grapes, you're okay. How could that be? Why wouldn't the grapes be metame, the juice that comes out of it? We know as long as you have a kibetza volume of grapes, which are tummy, they have the ability to give over tumah. So once you start squeezing, they're going to be metame the juice. Afilu tuva, even though you have a large amount of grapes, which equal a kibetza or more. Umi am Rabbi Yechon hachi. Did Rabbi Yechon say that? Did Rabbi Yechon tell us? Anov mishunitim. Grapes which became tummy. Dorchan pachas b'kibetza. The only way to salvage the juice within is by crushing them less than a kibetza at a time. Why? Because then the juice that comes out is not going to come into contact with a required amount of tumah, which is a kibetza. So it's less than a kibetza. It can't give over tumah to the juice. So how can we allow, in this case, crush even a larger amount of grapes? Ibo is saying one pshat will be hachanami pachas pachas kibetza. Here as well, we're speaking that it's less than a kibetza at a time, which won't be metame the juice. By saying another pshat, depends how tummy the grapes are. Hasam the nog ulu barish. In that case, where Rabbi Yehuda says it has to be less than a kibetza, we're speaking that the grapes touched a rishon l'tum. So what happens to them? The havalu in husheni, they turn into a sheni l'tum. And now when they touch the liquid which emanates, they're going to be metame the liquid. That's why they have to be less than a kibetza. However, in our case, we're speaking that they're less tummy, a lower level of tumah. The nogu b'sheni, the grapes themselves touch a sheni. What happens to them? They become a shlishi. They can't be matami, the juice that comes out. Therefore, regardless of the amount of grapes that are here, the juice exuding will not become tum. Let's get back to the concept of the ma'alo, the higher standards that the Chacham applied to Truma and to Kachim. Afanana mitanina. I'll bring you another example of a maila that the Chachamim applied to something which is kadosh. So we learned in a brayso like this: V'nosan olav ma'im chaim el keli. Pasuk says that he's meant to take the afar streifas achatos, the afer of the paraduma, v'nosan olav, place on it ma'im chaim el keli, What is Maim Chaim? Live water? It means that you draw straight from the source, straight from the spring into the Kli, directly. It should be drawn straight from the source. The Chiyus, the life, should be straight into the Kli. Straight from the source into the Kli, without interruption. That's on one side of the coin. But then the very same pasuk begins with the words V'nosan. V'nosan Allah. V'nosan amat lushanin. V'nosan indicates you're taking and you're pouring in. So you're detaching from the source and pouring it into the Kli. So you're not taking directly from the source. So which one is it? Didn't we just say that it's meant to be attached directly from the source? Is it attached or detached? Elamala. Apparently, it's a mala midrabanan. Meaning, lechatchili, meant to draw directly from the source. But the Yevet, even if it's been interrupted, it's okay. So it's a mila midrabanan for this kachim here. The Chacham supported the mila by using based on this pasuk. Hachanami mila. Here as well, when it comes to our case, where the cabbage was replanted, generally when it comes to chulin, replanting is mitar, and matabachila, when it comes to truma, Chacham applied a mila, that zriya replanting won't be really effective completely when it comes to truma, and they can't be eaten. Amar of Simya bar Ashi, I have another example. Afanana metanina, we too learned in Ebraisa, Tovel v'Olah, person who was Tovel, came up, Oichel Masa, he can eat b'masa unrestricted, because he's already Torah enough to eat Masa Rishon. Hair of Shemsha, Eichel b'Truma. Once he has the hair of Shemesh, nightfall, he can eat Truma. But Truma he can eat Truma, but not Kachim, until he brings his carbon tomorrow. So Mechusa Kippurim, he's still before his Kapara, he can eat Truma, but not Kachim. Amai, why? Torah, isn't he completely Torah? Elamala, apparently this is a Mila, Midaraisa. Torah is not enough. When it comes to Kachim, it needs to be more than Torah. Hachanami Mila. Here as well, when it comes to the Truma which was planted, the Chacham applied a Mila. Even though generally it's considered Torah, but Truma requires a higher standard, and we don't treat it like Torah. Amar Vashi, Afanana Mitanin. I'll bring another right. V'habasar. Pasuk says V'habasar become tamei. V'habasar. The extra word there is coming to teach us. L'Rabbi is the eitzim levayna. Even wood, firewood for the mizbeach, levayna, it's incense. Not edibles. They can become tum. Eitzim levayna b'nei tzmuya. B'nei tzmuya ninu. These types of things which are inedible, how can they become tamei? They're not food or drink. Ela mala. Apparently this is a mila. Rashi learns it's Rabbanan, Taisus learns it's Deraisa. Even something which is inedible will become tummy because it's kachim and tender for the mizbeach. We maintain high standards when it comes to truma and kachim. Hachanami mila. Likewise, in our case, the truma which was replanted, we apply a mila to Rabbanan due to its high standing, the truma, and therefore we're not lenient. We don't consider it like a regular chulin. So even though it's replanted, we treat it like it's tummy with respect to Israch. Okay, time for brief chazara of today's daf. So we began with the two Talmidim of Rabbah meeting up with Rabbi Bar Masna. He says, "What any nice chiddush that you learned?" He said, so they told him, "Any kasha you have?" He says, "Yeah, for sure, I have a kasha. You replanted those heads of cabbage, which were tummy. The mission says they can no longer be metame, but you can't eat them. Why? Why can't you eat them? If they're batal, mitaras eichel, and they're tur, what's wrong with them?" So they said, well, Rabbi actually explained that it's also for the zar to eat because it's gedulei truma, something which grows out of truma. So he says, well, that's already learned in the Mishnah elsewhere. So Gemara says, well, Rav Shesha says it's hesach hadas, and therefore it's possible. Well, that only works if hesach hadas is a psul, inherent psul, but if it's only based on tumah, it's replanted. Why would you still be concerned of tumah? And went to the discussion of hesach hadas. Kon Rebbeinu it's psul tumah. Kon Rishlakish is a psul haguf. Then went back to the Mishnah of the replanted truma. And Rav Yirmiyah says, I want to tell you something. In the name of Yoshia, there's something called Maila. Chacham applied added stringencies and chumras and Mailas when it comes to truma, when it comes to kachin. Just as when the water for the Nisach HaMayim became tummy, Hashaka doesn't work. Zriya doesn't work. Likewise here, the truma which was replanted, that doesn't help, doesn't allow it to be eaten. It's a Maila. And the Gemara proceeded with another 4 examples. The grapes of truma which became tummy. We say generally the juice and the grape are 2 separate things, but if it's for truma, then we treat it as one and the same, and the juice becomes tummy with the grape. We have the water of the parah aduma, needs to be drawn directly from the source, that's a maila. We have a mechusah kippurim, although can eat truma, can eat kachim, it's a maila. And with the eitzim levayna, although they're inedible, if they're prepared, if they're designated for the mizbeach, they have makabel tuma, it's a maila for kachim.